This began around 4 o'clock, coordinating the search for the fugitives, involving all local and state police departments. Roadblocks were set up at every major artery in and around the Moundsville area.
Hello. Hi. Can you look at your vehicle there, ma'am, please? Okay. Thank you.
Traffic was backed up for several miles for several hours as authorities combed the area without success, looking for 33-year-old David Williams, 5'9", 180 pounds, from Grant County. 34-year-old Fred Hamilton from Kanawha County, he's 6 foot 175 pounds, as well as 49-year-old Tommy Mullahan, 5 foot 10, 200 pounds, a McDowell County native.
They are considered dangerous. We don't know that they're armed at this point.
Any inmate that escapes should be considered dangerous. They haven't shown, since they've been incarcerated, any inclination to be dangerous, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be considered. Any inmate that escapes should be considered dangerous.
The inmates escaped by tunneling from the greenhouse area inside the pen under the east wall and came up on the back side of the pen outside the wall.
It's taken a considerable amount of time to dig this tunnel. It wasn't done, I don't believe, today.
The hole, about 1.5 feet in diameter, was discovered by a Moundsville resident. Prison clothing and a ladder were inside the hole. The resident alerted authorities, and when an emergency check was taken, the 3 inmates who had escaped before were on the loose again. Because of the time that has elapsed, Warden Legursky doesn't believe the men are in the immediate area.
I don't feel they're in the area. They may be. But the length of time that they've been gone, most people that escape from here cross the river immediately and get out of this jurisdiction.
However, precautions should still be taken.
Please lock your vehicles, lock your homes, your buildings, stay inside. If you think you have a problem or suspicious person, call us.
Here, move out so I can get some.
I just want the pictures.
We're under condition arrest. Let's do swap down, right? Okay.
Who's this? Okay, hold on just a second. I'll give you some of the inside news.
Okay, well, I'll do the best I can. Keep one picture in mind. You got her.
Control to all units, be advised, we are under condition red, but the county is clear. We are under condition red, but the county is clear.
Nothing, penitentiary?
Control to all units, be advised, we are
Thank you.
under condition red. 6.
It's business as usual this morning for the inmates at the West Virginia Penitentiary. The 3 prisoners who tunneled out apparently got to freedom between 2 and 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Was it a breach of security? The warden says technically yes. He says there are 600-plus inmates guarded by 200 correctional officers in a building built in the 1860s. It's not a prescription for success. Two of the three escapees, Tommy Mollahan and Fred Hamilton, worked in the horticulture section. That's where they started the tunnel, under a set of shelves. It took several truckloads of cement to fill the 16-foot hole they dug to escape. So today the question we asked the warden was, what did they do with the dirt? How did they hide it?
We're still trying to find that out. I don't know how they found it. Being in horticulture, it could have very easily went out flower pots, whatever. The amount of dirt that came out of there we can't find. So it had to, at this point in time, it could have been spread all over the 5 acres in there.
He suspects the digging may have been going on for quite a while.
Could have been, digging may have been in process for as much as 6-8 months. I don't know.
D.K. Wright, TV7 News, at the West Virginia Penitentiary. Digging a passageway big enough for a grown man to crawl through, 56 feet in length, is no easy job. We asked the warden, where did the escapees put the dirt?
We're still trying to find that out. I don't know how they found it. Being in horticulture, it could have very easily went out flower pots, whatever. The amount of dirt that came out of there we can't find. So it had to, at this point in time, it could have been spread all over the 5 acres in there.
So there's reason to believe the escape has been in the works for some time.
Could have been, digging may have been in process for as much as 6-8 months. I don't know.
So far, it has taken 21 cubic yards of concrete to fill the tunnel, and it may take even more. 21 cubic yards is a lot of dirt. This dump truck behind me holds about 5 cubic yards, so it would take a little more than 4 of those to hold the amount of dirt the prisoners dug out. Then there's a question of how much time and effort that required. The experts say hand excavating under the best circumstances takes time.
On the average, if you're on top of the ground where you don't have to transfer the dirt, you would be using an effort of about 2 hours per cubic yard. In the case you're talking about, many transfers would have had to occur, so this would be compounded by maybe 4 or 5 times.
So that could be 10 hours of manpower per cubic yard, or 210 hours of digging. So while the authorities try to figure out whether the escapees had help on the outside, in the form of a waiting car or someone providing street clothes, there is also the possibility that they had help on the inside, in terms of old-fashioned manual labor. D.K. Wright, TV7 News, Moundsville.
It has been 31 hours since the drama began unfolding. The penitentiary inmates escaped sometime between 2 and 4 yesterday afternoon, but there was almost a break this morning. It's believed one of the 3 broke into a home in Glendale.
He had this door open and he had his arm in here, and I was trying to push him out, but I couldn't, and I don't know, somehow he got in and I got out, but Amy was still in here, so I was trying to pull him out, and I was yelling at her to shut the door, lock the door, and call the police, lock the door and call the police. I kept telling her, and she couldn't get the door shut because he was wedged in here. So I don't know how it happened, but somehow I got a hold of her, and I pulled her past him, and we just ran down over the hill to the neighbors. And
I cannot say 100% sure that it was one of the inmates, but we do believe it was a valid sighting and incident, and do feel that it was one of the inmates.
You haven't seen anything of him, though, after that one reported sighting in that area?
No, we've had no further reports that have been verified.
The man fled into a wooded area with authorities close on his heels, but no sighting. State police spent the day tracking and combing the area. There have been numerous reports of sightings. Tonight there was one in Benwood. Nothing turned up.
We're trying and are responding to each and every reported possible sighting to verify or eliminate if it was valid or not.
Authorities are concentrating on secondary and back roads. They also have the main roads manned. 2 of the inmates have previous escape records. These are recent pictures of David Williams found in his cell. Police say he's been working out and has bulked up since his prison pictures were taken. Tommy Mollahan has been on many of the area back roads before. In April of 1988, a massive manhunt ensued.
You're not going to have any dogs. You have to spread your men out and then start walking.
Last time Mr. Mollahan was tracked for weeks, and it was said he was very knowledgeable in the woods. Any indication that you might have to take that route again and go back in as you did in 1988?
I would not be surprised. I've been told he's very knowledgeable in the woods. If we have to, we will.
The other escapee, Fred Hamilton, got away once from Reynolds Memorial Hospital. All three are serving life terms for murder.
Sooner or later, we'll get a valid sighting. We'll be in the right spot at the right time and hopefully make the apprehension.
These men are union leaders and are also correctional officers who work inside the pen. Their message today was, don't blame us or any of the staff for the escape. They say they just don't have enough people to do the job right.
It's been understaffed for quite a long time. You have employees over there that's been trying to do the job for quite a long time. But unfortunately, you can only go so far with so many people and maintain security as it should be. Unfortunately, with understaffing, we're still trying to provide security as if we were fully staffed, and you just cannot do that.
How long has this been going on?
Years.
The union says part of the problem is a lack of communication between themselves and the warden. The union president told me today it's quite likely that the two parties will never even sit down and talk about what happened yesterday.
There'll be no follow-up for anything as far as employees go. He'll meet with his upper echelon brass, administrators, but it'll never get down to the COs.
Does that make sense?
No, because we're the ones that's doing the job. We know what needs to be done to correct problems in there, but yet we're never addressed to it.
Warden Carl Legurski was given the chance to respond directly to the union complaints, but chose not to. Jerry Eshman, TV7 News, Moundsville.
I killed James Hall.
How did you do it?
I stuck a knife in him.
Why?
He was trying to hurt me.
Fred Hamilton is an escape artist. Mr. Hamilton has escaped from Reynolds Memorial Hospital. He has attempted to escape from Tucker County Jail when he was there. He has had numerous escape attempts at the penitentiary. Most recently, he was found in the ventilation system.
You say you're going to get away?
No question at all. I see myself right now out on the 13th green of Pebble Beach playing golf.
Yes, sir. Mr. Porter's been located in Erie, Pennsylvania, northern part of Pennsylvania. He is unharmed, uninjured, and in good health.
But it had to have been a tense 4.5 hours for 60-year-old Richard Porter. He was abducted from his Benwood Hills home by someone who fit the description of 34-year-old Fred Hamilton around 3:30. The suspect entered through the sun porch. This door was open at the time. He then broke one of the window panes of the inside door. Police were alerted to the situation by Porter's roommate, who came home around 4.
Everything seemed normal till I got inside the house, and then the door was ajar, and the one that we usually keep locked. And I suspected there might be something wrong. Walked in, and I saw a couple things that were not quite right, because we're very particular about where things are placed. And I saw a sweater or something on the floor, and I called out to Dick, "Are you all right?" And he says, "I don't feel very well." And I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "I just don't feel very well." And I thought he would explain it to me, so I just stood in the hallway, and then a voice said, "Tom, come on in." And it wasn't Richard, so I just turned and ran.
Fankhauser says the two men fled in Porter's car, taking the abductee's handgun. Benwood Police Chief Frank Longwell says he had a gut feeling one of the escaped killers was in the Benwood Hills area because of several reported sightings. He says it prompted him to conduct a search this morning in the Benwood landfill area.
We checked the dozer shed and a few other sheds that's on the property and came up negative.
Was there any signs of them being there?
There are some old tracks, but we had some heavy rain during the night and heavy rain today, and the tracks was real hard to pick up.
Police have one less worry tonight, and that is the safety of Richard Porter, who was able to do to Hamilton what the 3 convicts have been doing to authorities.
Mr. Porter had gotten free from his captor and went into the local service station and tried to explain it to those people. Finally, someone called the area authorities. They responded and interviewed Mr. Porter and realized what was taking place.
You know, there would have been more things, but it appears to have come to like a dead end. Usually you could look for other crimes to be committed as a result of this, you know, another car taken, money taken, food, a hostage, and nothing so far.
And what would does that make authorities a little more careful?
Well, definitely he's killed once, he's killed a cop, he would probably think nothing of doing it again. What's he have to lose? He's serving life.
He jumped out of the hallway with the shotgun pointed straight out at his hand, and he says, "Stand where you're at, don't move." He told me his name was Fred Hamilton. He told me that he had killed a cop.
That began Richard Porter's 7 hours of hell when he walked through the door at 1 o'clock yesterday to find escapee Fred Hamilton in his home until he made it to safety near Erie, 155 miles away. Porter says Hamilton made him get down on his knees and tied his hands behind his back. At one point, he was able to free his hands, making Hamilton extremely angry when he found out. He said the escapee threatened to shoot him. Hamilton then ate a meal and waited. When Porter's roommate walked through the door several hours later, noticing things were out of place, he ran for help. Hamilton then ran with his hostage to this car.
From there to Erie, he talked about going to Canada. He talked about going to Cincinnati.
Porter says the convicted killer also talked about going to a university where he would blend in with college students. He had thought his options out to the point of taking on a new identity.
His idea to get a new Social Security card was to go to the newspaper off or the library, get a 1958 newspaper, find a baby that died, use that name, and get a Social Security card.
When the two finally made it to Mill Creek, pulling into a Big Lots, Hamilton began stepping out of the car. Porter then slammed on the gas, speeding to a gas station where he called for help. Hamilton then held another family at gunpoint at this plaza, taking over their car. He hasn't been seen since.
He threatened you a lot from the time he took you hostage to the time he let you go. Did you ever feel that he would shoot, or did you feel him easing up a bit as you traveled to Mill Creek?
No, I thought he would any time.
You thought he could have shot you at any time?
Especially when I was in the bedroom. I mean, my hair stood up on my neck.
Another thing Hamilton revealed was he has a police badge, and he talked openly about the penitentiary escape.
Did he ever indicate that anyone knew what was going on at any time as far as inside of the system?
No, because I said this to him. I said, you know, I said, everybody knew this. I said, it was in the paper. Everybody in the prison knew about it. He said, nobody knew about it.
Different situations, and that's, I guess I screamed loud. Because, I mean, I screamed at him. I told him just to get out of here. And he left. He said, "You win," and walked out.
The actions of this Oklahoma store clerk eventually led to the arrest of Fred Hamilton, who, after he surrendered, told police he was headed for Pebble Beach, California, to play golf. But 2 others who tunneled their way out of the West Virginia penitentiary have eluded authorities, 49-year-old Tommy Mullahan and 33-year-old David Williams. Local police departments continue to follow up on reported sightings.
Glendale 15 received a call from a lady at 301 3rd Street. This is a reference to a suspicious person.
Pancho Flores says there have been fewer reported sightings of the 2 men, but that hasn't eased the fear.
What's really nervous is when the people call you and you feel for them because, you know, they're calling you and they're more or less, you're their lifeline in case something happens. So it's kind of scary.
Everybody is definitely afraid. I know, but I think all of us have become a lot more conscious of leaving our doors locked and watching our cars. And even when you, as noted out in Oklahoma, you have to even watch when you go to the shopping.
You can't help but worry.
you can't help but look over your shoulder and lock your doors.
And Glendale resident Ruth Nelson walked her dog at night for the first time since last Wednesday's breakout.
I'm a little nervous, but I stick to the main road and where it's well lit and there's lots of traffic.
Locked. And walking home, I walk in the middle of the street.
Simple acts like walking home at night won't be taken for granted until Mullahan and Williams are back behind bars.
He's going to be charged in Canadian County, at least at this time placed in jail, on attempted armed robbery charge, and also on a UFAP warrant, which is an authorized flight to avoid prosecution for the escape out of West Virginia, where he was incarcerated for the murder of a West Virginia state patrolman.
Will West Virginia get priority as far as prosecution?
I would imagine they'd get all the priority they'd like to have.
Sheriff, do you know anything about the armed robbery, why he left in such a hurry?
I know a little bit about it. It's actually a El Reno City Police Department case. The clerk who was behind the counter reacted very strangely to having a gun pulled on her and started yelling and screaming to get out of there, and he thought maybe she was crazier than he was.
I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do. Everybody says, well, you should have gave him the money. Well, everybody reacts different in different situations, and that's, I guess I screamed loud. Because, I mean, I screamed at him. I told him, just get out of here. And he left. He said, you win. And walked out.
As we were attempting to get some roadblocks set up, of course our line of thought was possibly escapees in this stolen vehicle. As we were attempting to get some roadblocks set up and moving people around to get the area sealed off, one of the correctional officers' vehicles was trying to get to an intersection, set up a roadblock. They were involved in an accident.
What caused that accident? Do you have any idea?
Well, I can't say the actual cause at this time. It's still under investigation. I can't give you the actual cause of the accident this time, but it was a one-vehicle accident. They struck a tree and went over an embankment. All three were transported by the local ambulance services to the hospital in Glendale. I have been there, talked with all three. Two have minor injuries, have been treated and released. There was some concern as to the injuries on the third individual. I just received a phone call just right before I came out. He's also turned up to be in pretty good shape, and he will be released, so that was the good news.
This causes some special problems, I guess, whenever you have escapees. Just about any incident like this that happens, you've got to think it's possibly them, and you've got to run after it like crazy, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have to make every effort. It was we felt at first, you have a stolen vehicle in the area that you've been working on for several days. It's an extreme possibility. Here's our escapees trying to move, if it is in fact they are still in that area. Yes, we have to react and react in a hurry.
10-4, we'll check that out and get back with you.
State police followed up on more leads today in an undisclosed rural part of Marshall County. They don't want to reveal where they're searching to tip off the escapees. All along, authorities have said there's a good possibility 49-year-old Tommy Mullahan and 33-year-old David Williams are still in this area. State police are following up on every good tip. But today, their search came to a screeching halt when a prison vehicle crashed. 3 prison guards thought the pickup truck they were chasing carried an escaped inmate. It turns out it didn't. It was reported stolen by Larry Hall, but it was taken by his son James.
Of course, our line of thought was possibly escapees in this stolen vehicle. As we were attempting to get some roadblocks set up and moving people around to get the area sealed off, one of the correctional officers' vehicles was trying to get to an intersection, set up a roadblock. They were involved in an accident.
The accident remains under investigation tonight. The prison vehicle struck a tree and went over an embankment. It took place on Fish Creek Road near Graysville. James Hall has been charged with joyriding, driving under the influence, and driving with a suspended license.
We felt at first, you have a stolen vehicle in the area that you've been working on for several days. It's an extreme possibility. Here's our escapees trying to move, if it is in fact they are still in that area. Yes, we have to react in a hurry.
Prisoners escaped from the Moundsville prison.
General Joseph Scaff spent almost an hour telling the committee what he knew about last week's escape. The Secretary of Public Safety began his investigation into the breakout this week. When asked how this happened,
we had some experienced escapees. I would certainly put that on the list of criteria that helped in their escape. Secondly, I think there, as I mentioned earlier, without question, I think there was a lapse in our security within the walls itself, the various stations.
The 4 corrections officers who appeared in front of the committee placed most of the blame on the administration at the prison and the poor staffing.
Lack of security and supervision in the greenhouse, lack of perimeter security around the institution, and the lack of the administration take action on anything.
We need employees, CO1s, through every branch up, in the halls, working the posts at the institutions.
The officers denied knowing anything about the breakout prior to it happening, but Mark Williams said some were suspicious that something was about to occur.
We would stand over, like I said, on the stoop in North Hall and look out there and see Freddie Hamilton and Tommy Monahan with a wheelbarrow at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, wheeling dirt, and we knew something was going to happen. What we thought was going to happen was they was going to use the picket fence that goes around the flower garden there and use it as a ladder.
As far as what measures to take to avoid future breakouts, General Scaff said he is already looking into reorganizing within the Department of Corrections. He said the prisoner files need to be updated, and better pay is needed for the officers to attract good quality of people and to avoid the high turnover rate.
But I think this legislature needs to be extremely careful that we don't reduce the budget of the Department of Corrections to a point where they cannot do their job. And we're very close to that break point. It's critical that our correction officers get adequate pay, that we have professionals who are well trained, that have some stability in the job that they have.
Looks as if we have a real problem there, and I think each testimony brings that about and brings it forth. There doesn't seem to be a contradiction. There seems to be a difficult situation existing with communication and with supervision.
And also lack of manpower?
Lack of manpower, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And
I'll tell you what we need to do at this point. Let's go out. We should be able to walk out. There's another house on out this point here, a abandoned building. Let's go out and hit.
It was a farm, a residence on a farm. The people had left in the area at 5 p.m. and returned about 7:15 to find that their home had been burglarized. Half a loaf of bread was taken, roughly 10 or 12 eggs, some luncheon meat, and a rain suit, top and bottom parts of a rain suit. The television had been turned on and a scanner in the home had been turned on.
and which leads us to believe it's one of the escapees.
It's called a FLIR, forward-looking infrared radar, and while it looks like something from an action-adventure movie, it's bringing new hope to search efforts.
The equipment consists of a ball that weighs about 53 pounds, and it has the capability of recording through a VCR, and we have 2 monitors in the aircraft. It requires us to have a pilot and a FLIR operator, and we work together to coordinate the location of what we're seeing on the ground with the pilots flying, and so we work quite closely together.
Sergeant Brian Gubish is one of 2 pilot operators to accompany the helicopter and help with search efforts.
Dim the screen down because it gets real bright in there.
Inside the helicopter, here's what the pilots see. The infrared beam detects a body. A closer look provides even greater detail.
They can distinguish men, deer, animals, and we're utilizing that aircraft to work the areas that we believe they might possibly be in an effort to detect them by heat.
In the air, here's what you can see with the naked eye. A person could be camouflaged by the brush, but with the FLIR, homes and other objects stand out. West Virginia State Police say this gives them an extra edge in their search efforts.
This enabled us to cover a lot more area and to provide a more thorough search of the areas which we are searching that would have took 10 or 20 times the time to do it on the ground by foot with the men. And we also have placed one of our troopers in the state police helicopter for visual observation to keep the pilots aware of roughly what areas they're in and what have you. And then should we get a call, as we did yesterday evening, it didn't prove out in a total other area, we have a quick response by having our man in there telling them we need to go here, we need to go here, and then they can restart.
The ultimate goal is to locate one of the escapees, but officials say it's just as important to know where they are not hiding.
We sometimes feel that even if we don't find somebody, the fact that they're not there is as important as the fact that they may have.
Late yesterday afternoon and on through the evening, we started receiving numerous reports of possible sightings, possible contacts, and possible entries here in Marshall County in 2 areas. Early this morning, well before daylight, we made 2 task force teams and placed them in these 2 areas in an all-out ground, foot search and manhunt, and hoping to find them moving in the early daybreak hours.
Are you talking about closing in on these people at this point?
I won't go that far as to say that. Hopefully that's correct. I can't tell you that, yes, they're still here. But we're not going to take any chances, and I hope we are closing in on them.
Do you think it's both suspects or just one?
I don't know. We're treating it as a possibility of both.
Are the people in these areas in any immediate danger?
Sure. As long as these escapees are out, they're both convicted murderers. Everybody's in danger. If they're still here, yes, the people are in danger.
Would you want to disclose the locations just for the sake of these people knowing?
Well, there's no doubt the people in these areas are aware that they're in the areas. We are in Marshall County, and it's from the middle of Marshall County south.
General Joseph Scaff spent almost an hour telling the committee what he knew about last week's escape. The Secretary of Public Safety began his investigation into the breakout this week. When asked how this happened,
we had some experienced escapees. I would certainly put that on the list of criteria that helped in their escape. Secondly, I think there, as I mentioned earlier, without question, I think there was a lapse in our security within the walls itself, the various stations.
The 4 corrections officers who appeared in front of the committee placed most of the blame on the administration at the prison and the poor staffing.
Lack of security and supervision in the greenhouse, lack of perimeter security around the institution, and the lack of the administration take action on anything.
We need employees, CO1s, through every branch up, in the halls, working the posts at the institutions.
The officers denied knowing anything about the breakout prior to it happening, but Mark Williams said some were suspicious that something was about to occur. As far as what measures to take to avoid future breakouts, General Scaff said he is already looking into reorganizing within the Department of Corrections. He said the prisoner files need to be updated, and better pay is needed for the officers to attract good quality of people and to avoid the high turnover rate.
It looks as if we have a real problem there, and I think each testimony brings that about and brings it forth. There doesn't seem to be a contradiction. There seems to be a difficult situation existing with communication and with supervision.
And also lack of manpower?
Lack of manpower, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And
a DNR conservation officer was traveling through the area, just checking fishermen, his regular patrol duties. He saw a subject down over the edge of the bank, right up the road here. Couldn't figure out what the subject was doing. He wasn't fishing. He stopped, asked the guy, "What are you doing?" He got out of his Jeep to check him. The guy, when he saw the DNR officer in uniform, realized he was an officer, bolted and ran. The man basically has the appearance of, as a DNR officer stated, what appears to him to maybe have been David Williams.
How long can you continue this search? Is there a point where it's just too expensive?
My department hasn't said anything to me about expenses. Hadn't been no discussion about stoppage or expenses. We're just trying to do all we can to get those two prisoners back, if in fact it is them here.
Do you still believe they're in the area?
I still think so.
I was rather surprised. I wasn't even expecting anything like this to happen.
It did happen, and George Trent will take over as warden of the troubled institution on Monday. An investigation by the West Virginia Department of Public Safety uncovered some damaging information about prison security, partially responsible for Legursky's forced resignation. WTRF was able to examine the preliminary findings of that probe. Evidence indicates that the tunnel digging may have started as early as September of last year. One of the escapees was not authorized to work in the greenhouse, and no officers were assigned to check security outside of the walls. It also disclosed key control was not in place or enforced. Escapee David Williams had a key to the greenhouse. Other keys to the greenhouse were on the prison industry's key ring, and not all North Yard officers were aware of this fact. Reaction on the streets of Moundsville was mixed as to whether Legursky's resignation was necessary.
If he could let the prisoners dig 50 feet down under the hole, down under the ground, you know, how much supervision do they really have?
The administration staff, before you get to the warden, should be more security-minded. You know, like, let's don't show favoritism to an inmate that's been good to you for a couple years.
Oh, I think it's great. I think they need somebody down there that could do a better job than what he's doing.
But George Trent doesn't see it that way. He had nothing but praise for Legursky.
I think his professional career is exemplary. I think he has tried to do a good job. I think he has done a good job. He was very supportive of the training academy. His officers were always present for the training classes, and I don't think that all the problems that came down were all Carl Legursky's. And I'm sorry that this happened to him. I'm sorry that I'm here now. I wish that he were still the warden.
The end of David Williams' odyssey came about 200 miles from New Martinsville, where he held a couple hostage throughout most of the morning. State police were alerted by a toll booth operator about Williams traveling in a stolen car near Beckley.
When I observed him go by, I tagged along with him until Trooper First Class Moore and Sergeant Sizemore came to me as a backup. In the meantime, Control called Company D, State Police in Beckley, and had other units coming to me. And when all the units got together, we maintained radio communications. We took Mr. Williams down at about the 40-mile marker.
We, of course, come out of the car with our weapons drawn and ordered Mr. Williams out of the car, and at first he refused to exit the vehicle, and then he was extricated and taken under control.
Police found several loaded shotguns and a Magnum pistol underneath the driver's seat of the car. Before Williams was driven back to Moundsville, he was brought into the Raleigh County Jail for questioning. Now that 2 of the 3 escapees are captured, Sergeant Pete Lake says it will ease the burden of the search for the final escapee, Tommy Mullahan.
This lets us concentrate our total effort now on Tommy Mullahan and it aids us the fact that we're not still trying to apprehend 2 or 3 in 2 or 3 different areas.
David Williams' last night of freedom was spent here at 350 Bridgeview Terrace, New Martinsville. Lane and Barbara Borer were asleep when he broke into their garage at 2 o'clock this morning. First, he woke the husband, Lane, holding his own gun to his chest. Then, together, they woke Barbara, slipping a pillowcase over her head. He forced them to help him cook a breakfast of bacon and eggs. Then he left them in a back bedroom, the husband tied hand and foot, the wife with her head covered.
I had a bag over both of them heads, so I couldn't tell who he was. But the guy had told him who he was. He'd been camping behind the house for 2 days.
Indeed, a bag with extra clothes, food, and cigarettes was found in the woods behind the house. After some time had passed and they didn't hear any noise, the Borers decided to escape. So they barricaded the bedroom door and went to this window, where they jumped out onto the ground 12 feet below. Barbara broke her leg in the fall. Lane carried her to a neighbor's house.
He came down in his underwear, pretty well excited and scared, pounding on the door, and said the convicts been in his house all night. They had him tied up, and they just got loose.
But their captor had already gone, in their car, with 3 or 4 of their guns.
He said he was very polite with them after he got over their first experience there, holding a gun on him. He said that he said that he would not harm him any.
No, the closest he come to physically hurt me was he stuck the pistol between my shoulder blades when we walked back to the bedroom to waken my wife up.
Looked out the window?
No.
D.K. Wright, TV7 News, New Martinsville.
The week began with an exclusive look at some of the high-tech search equipment being used by the West Virginia State Police. The FLIR unit enables one to see in the dark. While it has not played a major role in locating any of the 3 escapees, it was useful in scanning a large area of ground in a short amount of time. The escape at the West Virginia Penitentiary prompted a Senate Judiciary Committee investigation. Lawmakers grilled corrections officers and the warden, all in an effort to determine not only how the prisoners dug a 32-foot tunnel under the wall, but why no one knew it was going on. In the week that would come, Carl Legursky, the warden, would resign. George Trent, a former warden at Punytown, would be named to head the penitentiary in Moundsville. Another public official in West Virginia is going to prison prison. Former Marshall County Prosecutor Tom White was sentenced to 6 months in jail and 3 years probation after he pled guilty to misdemeanor drug charges. The last of 5 Belmont County men charged in the burning death of Vicki Redmond has been sentenced. 20-year-old Derek Langford of Martins Ferry will spend at least 30 years in prison before being eligible for parole. The week would end with 2 of 3 fugitives from the West Virginia Penitentiary back behind bars. David Williams was captured near Beckley and returned to Moundsville, where he was interrogated for several hours by state police. Williams had earlier taken a New Martinsville couple hostage in their own home. He stole their car and fled 180 miles south before being captured on the West Virginia Turnpike. The search continues tonight for the last escapee, Tommy Mollahan. And that's the Week in Review.
We're just glad to have him. That's 3 for 3. We're glad to have them all back in custody. No injuries, no one hurt. That's our department's main concern. Nobody was injured, no one was hurt.
The news of Mollahan's capture came at 7:40 tonight to state police. The escaped killer, who has eluded authorities before, was picked up by undercover state policemen near Gilbert's.
The information in Mingo County was developed by the state police and worked on hard, which led to his capture. It wasn't just a happening thing. They worked on it.
Mollahan was armed with a hunting knife but didn't offer any resistance when he was arrested. He was taken to the Mingo County Jail in Williamson. This time, Mollahan was out for about 3 weeks, 2 less than in 1988. He'll be brought back here to the state police barracks in Moundsville sometime late tonight.
Until he's interviewed there and he's returned here where we can interrogate him, I'll have to decline comments on what he's saying.
Mollahan escaped from the state prison in Moundsville on February 19th with 2 other inmates. David Williams was captured last Friday near Beckley. Fred Hamilton was captured in Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. Mollahan, the lone holdout, has been the focus of an intense search, similar to 1988 when he spent 5 weeks in a wooded area of Marshall County. But a lot has changed in the 3 weeks since Mollahan's escape. This time when he returns to the penitentiary, he'll find a new warden in charge, stricter guidelines in place, and today he turned a year older. Does it bring you any extra joy that he was captured on his 50th birthday? There was a lot of talk about that.
Happy birthday.
A tired but feisty Tommy Mollahan was taken back to the Mingo County Jail last night after being captured on a mountain in Mingo County. Police say a tip from an informer led to Mollahan's capture. Mollahan escaped from prison on February 19th, tunneling his way to freedom with Fred Hamilton and David Williams. Both were captured earlier. Mollahan said all 3 split up after the escape. He hitchhiked to Huntington, West Virginia, then through Kentucky, then into Mingo County, where he thought some people might help him.
But I wouldn't put nobody in a situation to jeopardize them, other than maybe ask them for food or a little help like that. That's one thing, I can survive in the mountains. There ain't too many places I ain't been that I can't.
Ironically, Mollahan's capture came on his 50th birthday.
If a private company defied a court order to pay employees overtime back pay, there would be hell to pay for that company. Yet it seems the same defiance by government is ignored. 122 West Virginia state policemen are due overtime pay dating back to the 70s. Troopers have been receiving some overtime pay since 1978, but approximately $700,000 in back pay remains outstanding. In 1991, the state Supreme Court upheld a lower court ruling that said the troopers should be paid. 2 legislative sessions have since passed, and the officers have yet to be paid. Governor Caperton recommended payment of the back pay in his budget, but the money is not included in the budget being considered by both houses. We understand that the problem is not an unwillingness to pay on the part of the legislature, but a budget dispute with state police officials. But that, nor any other situation, is an excuse for holding state troopers' overtime pay hostage. State troopers should receive their overtime back pay now.
And he'd laugh.
Here, I just madly just head over heels the way you've been.
Turn it off.
You.
Turn it
Call
off.
me a slut puppy. That's good. That's good.
I apologize.
I
didn't kill you.
Did you mean it?
Yeah, no, I did. I wouldn't say that about you. Sergeant, what can you tell us about Mollahan's capture at this point?
He was apprehended near Gilbert, which is close to Williamson in Mingo County, around 7:40 this evening.
Can you tell us, has he said anything, or are you at liberty to tell us any of that until you've talked to him?
Well, until he's interviewed there and he's returned here where we can interrogate him, I'll have to decline comments on what he's saying.
When do you think he'll be brought back, and then will he be taken to the penitentiary?
He'll be brought back probably late tonight or early in the morning hours, and yes, eventually he'll be reincarcerated in the pen.
Does it bring you any extra joy that he was captured on his 50th birthday? There was a lot of talk about that.
Happy birthday.
You'll throw him your own party.
We're just glad to have him. That's 3 for 3. We're glad to have them all back in custody. No injuries, no one hurt. That's our department's main concern. Nobody was injured, no one was hurt.
Do you feel all of your men put a lot of extra effort forward? They worked some long hours.
Yes, yeah, the men really, they gave it their all. The information in Mingo County was developed by the state police and worked on hard, which led to his capture. It wasn't just a happening thing. They worked on it, and I must say all the agencies in this area, the Marshall County Sheriff's Office, the other sheriff's departments, the police departments, Glendale, Moundsville, McMecken, the high authorities, the Pennsylvania authorities, everybody put out a real effort. Everybody worked well together, and that's what it takes to do good police work.
Just turn around and walk right out.
The thing is, I tried to get on foot.